Welcome to another episode of The Modern Moron. So much to go over. I don't mean to do it. I don't like politics all that much. Usually there are some people that I flat out cannot even talk politics with. I'd rather make fun of things. I'd rather make fun of people. Okay, I need to stop doing that, but why am I always talking politics? I never used to be this way. Maybe it's that politics has become the best reality show on TV, right? I mean, the stakes are higher than on The Bachelor. Or are they? I don't know. I don't watch The Bachelor. It's more intense than Big Brother on CBS. Or is it? I don't watch Big Brother. Okay, my radio co-host is back, and during her time on the radio, she also reported the news. Here are some of the idiotic people, rabbit holes, and topics we talk about.
Item number 1.
Alexandria Ocasio, I'm in my rookie year, blah, 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 says that it's a national scandal that the Democratic Party isn't moving to impeach Trump, which, by the way, they are now. Remember what happened when we impeached Clinton?
They were trying to set me up and trick me.
Yeah, nothing. AOC is just trying to get attention and get reelected.
Item number 2.
Rudy Giuliani. He is every late night talk show host's dream in terms of the moronic things he says. I play a clip from an interview he did with Chris Cuomo on CNN where he says within about 10 seconds that he both did not and then did ask the Ukraine government to investigate Joe Biden and his son. I don't know what to call it other than idiotic.
Item number 3.
Somehow, O.J. Simpson comes up, and I never knew that Fox had produced a special interview with O.J. where he basically confesses to the murders, and they never aired it. Link at the bottom of the description for that not very pleasant clip. Then we talk briefly about NPR and ABC journalist Cokie Roberts. She passed away in mid-September, just last weekend as of this recording, and she was special to me, and I can't quite say how, considering I don't really have much of an affection for politics. But she had an affection for politics and presented it in a way that I never felt there was an angle or anything other than that she was helping me understand the chaos of our political system. Along with Linda Wertheimer and Nina Totenberg, they came to be known as the founding mothers of NPR, and I'll bet you recognize their voices when you hear them. There are many tributes and articles on Cokie Roberts, and I will post at least one or two at the bottom of the episode description.
Hello. Item number 4.
We also hit upon the ridiculous Corey Lewandowski hearing. If you missed it, good for you, because it makes one ashamed of our current political process. Lewandowski is Trump's former campaign manager, and Democrats are after him regarding Russian interference in the 2016 election. Yeah, that's still going on. The hearing was a stonewalling. It was a contest to see which politician can talk the longest without caving in and acknowledging someone else said something. It shows that politics has become, or probably always has been, a yelling contest. We wrap up by talking about the wrapping up of this decade. Definitely a decade of learning how to use technology. Now we're able to see in more personal ways the effects of propaganda. Getting to the truth is now so much more difficult for journalists and for the public, who is now a generator of propaganda via vlogging and blogging and clogging, along with foreign countries. I never thought I would be this friggin' up to my neck in politics. And when did you ever think the Ukraine would be such an influence in U.S. politics? It just keeps getting crazier. I have 2 apologies for you. Number 1, I go on a rant again about the Netflix documentary, The Great Hack. If you've seen it, I'm sorry for bringing it up again. And if you haven't seen it, shame on you. Also, I have to apologize for the poor sound quality on my end. It sounds scratchy or staticky, and I hope you don't find it too offensive. It's a political poop-pourri on The Modern Moron. So I sent you some stuff, a sheet, and this is a headline I'm just now looking at, and it's from Newsweek. It says Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez says Democrats are causing a bigger national scandal than Donald Trump.
Oh, Lord.
And the next one is AOL says AOC calls Democrats' refusal to impeach Trump a national scandal. What's your take on her?
Okay, so they're eating themselves. Somebody like that is going to make Democrats eat themselves, and that happens a lot. And it's one of those memes that says you're not helping. I think she's trying to just get attention.
Yeah.
And for her, I have not read it. I don't know how the story went, and you can't trust the headline. But If that's what she said and that is her intention, then she is being destructive of the party that she allegedly supports and wants to go forward with.
Well, The Hill, I don't know how you feel about that angle. The headline is Ocasio-Cortez calls out Democrats for refusing to impeach Trump.
That's a really big conversation in the Democratic Party right now. And I don't know where your stance is on that, but I understand why they have not tried to impeach him.
And what is that to you? Why haven't they tried to impeach him?
Because there's no point. They can start the impeachment process, basically have the trial in the House, and then send it to the Senate. What happens in the Senate is going to be nothing. So what is the point?
Sort of like when they impeached Bill Clinton.
Exactly. We learned from that. Democrats and Republicans learned from that. Merrick Garland is not a Supreme Court justice because he was sat on by Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell is not going to push through anything that House Democrats do.
Mm-hmm.
And frankly, I think that Mitch McConnell not allowing Merrick Garland to be on the Supreme Court, that meant that he could get away with anything. So now there are a bunch of bills that the House has passed, and then when they get to the Senate, McConnell just says, yeah, well, we really would prefer not to.
What is his relationship, do you think, with Trump?
I have no idea, but I don't think he has a relationship with Trump. I think he saw that Donald Trump is getting things done as far as he's pushing back on the Democratic Party, and so he's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that McConnell's like, as long as this is working, then we win. I think he just wants to win. I don't think he cares about Trump. I don't think he cares about anything but winning.
Maybe he looks at Trump as, this guy's running interference for me.
Right.
He's got them all chasing their tails and backbiting each other, and it's working out fine for me.
Yes. And every time Donald Trump does a tweet, it just kind of distracts everybody.
Right.
And that means that the Senate can say, well, no, we only do what we want. It's pretty amazing what's happening.
Plus, if they went through the procedures you were just talking about, that would take at least a year, correct?
Which procedure?
To impeach him, to starting that process.
Yes.
It would take at least a year.
Yes.
Focus your energy on getting behind a single candidate.
Right.
Yeah, it's a waste of time trying to impeach that guy.
And the electorate does not like when they feel like a party is trying to do an end round around who they elected, for better or worse. They don't like that,
Uh-huh.
you know? And I could see if it were a 6-year term, but no, it's a year and a half. And if you can't win at the ballot box, then don't try, you know?
Right. And this young whippersnapper, AOC,
Right.
doesn't see the bigger picture, which this is why Pelosi, and I'm not a fan of her either. This is why she's like, we're not going to impeach this guy. It's a waste of time. There's plenty of time wasting in Washington and in government already.
Right.
This will be an additional waste of time.
I honestly think that AOC knows all of the stuff we're talking about. She's just getting attention from the people that will vote for her next time around. You know, I think this is all bullshit. And I think she knows that, but she's getting attention and riling up her liberal base, that's what she's supposed to do. But anybody who takes this seriously is wasting their time too.
A few weeks ago, I had a friend of mine on who's a screenwriter, but he majored in political science.
Uh-huh.
And he kind of said the same thing, that a senator or a congressperson, everything they do is pretty much to get themselves reelected. Whatever it takes to get the votes, they're just on the hamster wheel of getting themselves reelected. And in terms of doing something in Washington, the lobbyists do that, who are representing big money and big causes. And the congressmen and the senators sort of do little schmoozy things like, I can get you into this tour or that tour. I can pull a favor here or that. It's just a petty little system that's kind of gross.
Yeah. And you know what made it so bad is there's so much money in the system. These guys spend so much time raising money for their next campaign. And that has made it so much worse.
Right.
Your local guy or woman is going to the local thing and kissing up to people who will give that person money for their campaign. And that, to me, has been disastrous.
System is so broken.
It really is.
Okay. Fun times.
Yeah.
It's not like the stuff on my little list was any better. Although at least there's somebody to make fun of. Did you happen to see the thing with Rudy Giuliani on CNN with Chris Cuomo?
Yes.
Did you see that video?
Yep. I saw everything that you sent me. Yeah. You kind of got me back into the scheme of things because I had been so busy this week. So I looked at everything. So tell me what you want to talk about.
Giuliani, he's just, I just can't take him seriously. He's like the fourth stooge.
Getting personal, eh?
Mo, Larry, Curly, and Rudy.
Did you ask the Ukraine to investigate Joe Biden?
No, actually I didn't. I asked the Ukraine to investigate the allegations that there was interference in the election of 2016 by the Ukrainians for the benefit of Hillary Clinton, for which there already is a court
never asked
finding.
Anything about Hunter Biden. You never asked anything about Joe Biden.
The only
and his
thing
role
I
with the
asked about
prosecutor.
Joe Biden is to get to the bottom of how it was that Lutsenko, who was appointed, dismissed the case against Antac.
So you did ask Ukraine to look into Joe Biden?
Of course I did.
You just said you didn't.
No, I didn't ask him to look into Joe Biden. I asked him to look into the allegations that related to my client, which tangentially involved Joe Biden in a massive bribery scheme,
Rudy.
not unlike
Rudy.
what he did in China.
Rudy.
And damn it, he's Italian. It makes me feel bad. Here's where I am with Rudy. I can't figure out, does this guy have balls as big as the Pacific Ocean? Or is he crazy?
Yes.
Or is he so indebted to Donald Trump or to the Republican Party? Because there was a really weird spot where he just swerved into a very weird direction. He wasn't always like this.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, when 9/11 happened, he was, I don't want to say in the right place at the right time, because that was a horrifying.
For his political career, he was.
And he did all the right things, too.
Yes.
He really brought that city together in a horrible time.
Yes.
He should have retired after that and rode off into the sunset.
Oh, my God, yes.
But the things he says are, I don't know what else to say but crazy.
But did you notice that he changed within like 2 minutes? He changed what he was saying. He completely contradicted himself within 2 minutes. And who else does that? Trump does that.
He is a sick puppy.
He did exactly what his boss does. And I think the sad part of that is that people have realized it doesn't matter. It does not matter. You don't have to be.
Apparently not.
You don't have to.
Because we're going to move on to the next sound bite.
Yep.
In a half an hour.
Exactly.
No one's accountable anymore.
No.
Did you watch some of the Cokie Lewandowski hearing?
Hell no.
You know what? You're better off not watching it.
It's the only thing I didn't look over much because I thought maybe you could give me your short spin on it. I can't watch those congressional hearings.
You get just too aggravated?
Yes.
That's the way, literally, I think I was trying to listen to something from Ram Dass. Do you know who Ram Dass is?
Mm-mm.
Formerly Richard Alpert, a scientist from Harvard who worked with Timothy Leary. They dropped acid for scientific purposes, and both of them were fired and kicked out of Harvard. And Ram Dass thought, man, there's something to this LSD and this experience I had. He ended up going to India and studying under a guru, and like he's Mr. Zen and all that stuff. And I was, trying to listen to that kind of stuff. And then I flip on this idiot, Cokie Lewandowski. It was a shit show. It made me so ashamed of our political system. It was simply a contest of who can keep talking while someone else is talking.
Right.
Until the other person acknowledges them. And that went on and on and on. And it was absolutely disgusting.
They're basically trying to make the other person give up.
Sort of, like they would ask Lewandowski a question. Did you meet with President Trump on April 5th, whatever the date? Can you point to the page in the report where it says that? And the senator or whoever went, well, it's not in the report. You don't need the report. Did you meet with President Trump on April 5th?
Right.
I'm sorry. I need to have the page so I can refer to it and read along. Why do you need either you know you did or you don't? And he did that on and on. He just stonewalled the whole thing, drug it out. And some Republican was saying, point of order, point of order. I will not recognize a point of order. Point of order, point of order. It was a circus.
Mr. Chairman, I have a motion. Mr. Chairman, I have a motion.
You will wait for your motion until I finish this.
Point of order, then.
Not only...
Point of order has got to be recognized.
Not in the middle of...
Yes, it does. The motion is since the chairman is not following the House rules, I move to adjourn.
Motion is to adjourn.
Legal proceedings have become what this stuff is now. Nobody cares what reality is. It's what I can get away with.
Yeah.
That's what I'm seeing in those. And that makes me crazy. And you know what sucks is that the electorate hates that stuff. How many times have you heard somebody say, oh, they got off on a technicality in court? So somebody who shot somebody got off on a technicality.
Like O.J. Simpson?
Oh, my God, yes.
Which I just found, I'm going down a rabbit hole. I just found on YouTube that Fox did a show where he confesses to the murder and they never aired it. Did you know that existed?
I did not. But I did. If I did it, I read the first 10 pages of his book called If I Did It, and I couldn't stand it. My kids don't understand why O.J. Simpson is a thing. My son's like, well, who the heck's O.J. Simpson? I did not know where to go with that because it wasn't just the murders. It was a cultural thing. It was a political thing. It was a judicial thing. What do you tell your kid about that? It was such a disappointment.
You can't just say, oh, he was a football player. You would have to watch a documentary on it to get the whole.
Yes.
You'd have to spend a couple of hours having the story laid out for you.
Yep.
Wow, we were really bouncing around on some really inspiring topics. How about this?
Yeah.
By the time this airs, by the time I publish this, last weekend was Cokie Roberts' funeral. And I think most people know who Cokie Roberts is.
Old people.
Okay, old people. That's what this demo is. Demographic is for old people. And I remember Cokie Roberts since I was a kid, seeing her on Sunday mornings, not really paying attention, but seeing her, and she caught my eye. She was kind of adorable and pleasant and had a pleasant way of presenting the news. And I was so sad when I found out that she had passed. And I had a similar reaction, maybe because it was more sudden to me, when the NBC correspondent, Tim Russert passed away. I was kind of devastated because he had this sort of enthusiasm for politics without getting drugged down by the politics. I don't know how that's possible, but those two had that similarity. They were also both big-time Catholics. I don't know if that matters or not, but
It's interesting you bring that up because they were both big-time Catholics, and Stephen Colbert is too. And he has the same level of kindness. And frankly, I think that that's one of the things that made people like us admire them was their base level kindness and the fact that they could be very religious and very intellectual and very kind. I mean, that to me is what made really great journalists. I mean, I lived for Sunday morning.
Oh, really?
I really
At what age?
Holy hell. As a teenager until...
You were into politics as a teenager?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Always. I was always in.
What did you major in college?
I started in journalism, and then I got into radio, and then I moved into getting my English lit degree because I wanted to actually graduate someday. Because I'd been in radio. You know, I just needed to get done so I could move around the country, and it made it easier. So
let's talk about this that I threw at you. A few months from now, we're going to start seeing all the news, all the broadcast networks do their look back at this decade. It's hard to believe that this decade's coming to a close. I've thought recently, like, how are we going to look back on this decade? And I feel sort of like we're going to look back on this decade in a similar way that we look back on the 60s. I think it's that significant. And while granted, a lot of things like the Facebooks and all that stuff started in the, 2004, 2006, 2008, right in there. it didn't really become part of people's lives, and it didn't get leveraged until the Arab Spring in what country was that in?
Right.
I forgot where it started. It was in Northern Africa.
I thought Libya was
It
where it was a
was
really
across
big
there,
deal.
and the people were using it to communicate, and government was like, what's going on? Have you seen the documentary on Netflix called The Great Hack? Is that what it's called? Yeah.
I have not seen it.
You haven't? Shame on you.
How long has it been out?
It's been out a few months. The Great Hack is
Okay.
about the company Cambridge Analytica. Do you know about them?
Yes.
So
Yes.
this is what the little bit is. Explore how a data company named Cambridge Analytica came to symbolize the dark side of social media in the wake of the 2016 U.S. presidential election.
Yes, I know that story, and I hope that people that need to hear it will hear it, but I don't think they will.
Everybody needs to hear it.
But they won't. Unless you make it a meme, people aren't going to know.
I'm going to keep spouting about it because the woman that was at the tip of the spear, so to speak, that worked for Cambridge Analytica got Trump. Trump said, yeah, I want to do business with you. And I think it said one of the factoids was Hillary Clinton was spending somewhere around $600 and something thousand she spent on Facebook ads or social media ads. Trump was spending $1 million a day.
Holy hell.
$1 million a
I didn't know
day.
that.
And they had these profiles on something like some ridiculous number of millions of people in this country, and it was for sale. And again, it's sort of like you were saying with your son and O.J. Simpson. You can't just say, oh, it's about, you got to protect your data. You got to watch this to see, because it's not going to end. It also went into some details about how other elections have been influenced in smaller countries. It's really, I kind of don't know how to put it into words, that we better figure out how to protect our data, or we're just going to we're getting spoon-fed information that we think we like.
Yeah. It's like Sunday morning cartoons for little kids.
In a way, yeah.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
Or Saturday morning. It was Saturday, right?
It was Saturday morning. It wasn't 24/7. It was Saturday mornings. And it gets to the point where, like, you go on Amazon or wherever and they say, hey, you might be interested in this. Oh, how did they know? And then they'll start to feed you what they want you to know or how they want you to feel about a topic.
Well, and it's always been like that when it comes to commercials.
True.
But when it was 30 or 60 seconds, that was one thing. But there are two things going on. Now, people are seeing hours and hours of a news channel. And number two, they're choosing the news channel that feeds their brain the dopamine that they want.
Right. Yeah.
People are picking what they want to hear.
I'm glad you brought up the commercials because it's propaganda in a new way. I mean, propaganda is nothing new. It's been going on for decades, if not centuries. And when I think of propaganda, I think of communist propaganda that we saw a lot of.
Nazi propaganda. They were
exactly all of this propaganda that they feed people what they want, and they dish it up and put a little whipped cream on it and sprinkles, and oh yeah, I do want that. When no, you don't want that. It's not just Russia and China. They're not our friends. They are not our friends. Nor is China a friend of this planet currently. Anyway, by the way they do the things they do.
I'm told that they're the best. I'm told that they in North Korea are the shizzle.
The more divisive we are in the United States, the better they like it. So when you see stuff that you can't stand and you're a Democrat, it might not be the Republicans lobbing it over at you, and vice versa. It might be coming from outside this country. It might be coming from Russia. It might be coming from China, because the more they've got us spinning around in circles, the better they like it.
But nobody who, quote unquote, hates the Democratic Party is going to believe that. That is the scary part. The right will not believe that it's somebody outside the country. They'll think it's the left. And the left vice versa. And that is, we're really boned.
They get more mileage out of it. Like somebody told, like China, they're literally taking a book out of who wrote The Art of War? Sun Tzu or Lao Tzu or something. Anyway, one of the principles of The Art of War is to take the enemy without firing a shot. And that's kind of what they're doing.
Right.
We don't need to go over there with guns. we'll get them to kill each other. We don't need to drop bombs. We'll get them to implode upon themselves. But like you said, the far left and the far right are going to insist it's taking place within this country.
If you can split up the other side, then you've won. You know, we've seen that with national elections. If you get some people to be so mad at the person who's running in your own party that they write in some candidate, or it's like this sliver party, Ross Perot, he was a good example. He peeled off votes from the party that could have won.
Uh-huh. Ralph Nader did that for a lot of years.
Yes, he totally did that.
And you know who's doing it now?
Who?
Bernie Sanders.
That's exactly what I don't want to do.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but in the 2016 election, he refused to endorse Hillary Clinton.
I agree with you.
Which I kind of don't blame him.
Yep.
However, when this comes to 2020 and they nominate whoever they nominate, if Bernie doesn't get it, he has got to suck it up. If the Democrats want to get rid of Trump, he's got to suck it up and endorse that candidate.
And he's got to do it enthusiastically.
Yeah.
I was so angry with him last time around. I think he might have been able to change things a little bit, because I had a lot of friends who were so over the top Bernie fans. And I was glad. Okay, fine. You know, if you're that into it, you're like rounding up people to vote. Yay, you. But when Bernie went down to Hillary, they kind of took their toys and went home. And that was a big deal.
Yeah.
It's like, you can't get angry and then hand it to the other guys. That's stupid.
Well, this decade is definitely ending with a bang, isn't it? As of the recording of this closing segment, the Democratic Party, via Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi, are launching a formal Trump impeachment inquiry. From this moron's perspective, this is simply a formality so that history will reflect that Trump has demonstrated impeachable behavior, blah, 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 because if, and that's a big if the inquiry moves forward, it is very unlikely to pass the Republican-controlled Senate. Next. As for the coming weeks and perhaps next week, we're going to revisit my comrade from Eastern Europe as we present Insane in the Ukraine Part 2. In case you didn't know the wonderful insanity that is going on in that country, let me give you a little moron teaser. The president of the Ukraine is Vladimir Zelensky. He's a Ukrainian actor, screenwriter, comedian, director, and politician serving as the 6th president of Ukraine since May of this year. He was inaugurated as president on May 20th, so he's been president for almost 5 full months. Zelensky was the star of a show called Servant of the People, which is a Ukrainian political satire comedy television series that premiered in October of 2015. The show tells the story of a 30-something high school history teacher who unexpectedly wins the election to the presidency of Ukraine after a viral video filmed by one of his students shows him angrily ranting against government corruption in Ukraine. The show would become much more involved in Ukraine's actual politics. On March 31st of 2018, a political party named after the television series was registered with the Ministry of Justice, not the Ministry of Magic. Zelensky, who played the protagonist of the series playing the president of Ukraine, was actually elected president of Ukraine in April of this year. And it keeps getting crazier from there as Zelensky has been calling out corruption and corrupt politicians left and right, doing it on camera for a good deal of the time. It feels a little bit like you wish someone would do this in our country to stir up the big bloated tumor that our government has become. So we're going to bring back the comrade to get some details on the craziness in Ukraine, which is now in U.S. politics because of the accusations that while Joe Biden was working with and in Ukraine to help weed out the massive corruption in the country, Biden's son Hunter was hired on the board of directors of the largest gas company in Ukraine and was making a salary of $50,000 a month. Yep, that's it for this oversized modern moron. We'll see you next week with Insane in the Ukraine Part 2. Thank you for listening.
By far the best of all, I have become a grandmother. Caretaking. That's the common thread that runs through these stories. No matter what else women are doing, we are also mothering, taking care of somebody or something, and for the most part, doing it joyously. I think we've been doing it awfully well for a very long time.